it's a humbling thing. I was just talking to Clemette. When we were kids, our parents, were friends, and so we grew up together. I grew up taking butt whippings from Clemette on the basketball floor, but we went to state tournament together from the time we were 8, 9, 10 years old. I grew up trying to be Darrel Griffith as a player when I was a kid, and played for Wes for 4 or 5 years for the old Bullets, Wizards, Bullets, whatever it is. So it's funny how things kind of come full circle, but it's an awfully big honor.
Talk about those high school days back at Apollo, man. It was pretty crazy for you back there. Reminisce with us a little bit.
Yeah, it's all gone by in such a flash. You turn around and you're old, fat, bald, and all your plans behind you. But it was an awful lot of fun. If I could snap my fingers and do it all over again, I certainly would.
Let's talk about going in with this class. You're going in with, some of the best names and players ever in the state of Kentucky.
Yeah, it's amazing. From Wawa to Cliff, Cliff looks like he can still play. Right on down the line. King Kelly is somebody I've been hearing about since I was little, and just getting to know him the last few years has been a real treat. But all these people, and I ran into Wade Houston out in the lobby, and from Allen right on down the line, Winston Bennett, and more people my age, and then older. The one thing I'm really glad about is that apparently they're going to put in quite a few coaches, and coaches in the state of Kentucky are kind of the lifeblood and go hand in hand with the players. So it's a really nice thing that they're doing here, and again, humbling to go in with this first class.
How cool will this be from a family perspective, given that you talked about how close you are to Clemette? She and her father are in. It stands to reason your dad's eventually going to be in here too.
Well, that would be awfully nice. I think he would be deserving, but there are, you could go right down the list of personalities in this state, people and coaches, and from players to coaches to PA announcers who've been at the state tournament, involved with the state tournament for years. It's just it's crazy that Kentucky hasn't had one of these until now. You think about it, you think about high school basketball, and I do think across the country, Kentucky's one of the states that pop into people's minds.
Just to be in the room with these guys means so much to me, and I was just telling somebody earlier that these are all guys that I grew up hearing stories about and reading about, and to get to know them and to go into this class with them is really, really special, because just on the bus ride over here, to be on there with such greatness just really means a lot.
How significant? You talk about how much it means. Your high school career is one of legend kind of in the state, but to know that, after 24, 25 years, whatever it is, it still holds up as, one of, I guess, the 16 best that people have had in this state to be part of this inaugural class. What's the significance of that to you as you grow?
Well, I think as you get older, a lot of those accomplishments that you were able to achieve in high school, college, or, whatever it is, I think that they mean more to you, because you're able to appreciate it more. I think at the time that you accomplish it, or at the time it happens, you really don't understand the historical significance of what you were able to do. But to play in 5 state tournaments, to be involved in 3 state championship games, to win a state championship, all of those things, the older I get, the more it means to me. And now that I have 3 boys, it really means a lot. Sure. So that we go back to the state tournament every year, and we get a chance to watch games and watch kids play, and hopefully someday soon I'll get a chance to see them out there play.
You took part in probably what many people call one of the greatest high school games ever with the 50 Allen. Take me back to that. Take me back to that game, man. What do you remember from that?
Well, it's funny because I remember a lot about a lot of games, and I remember a lot about that one. But, you hear a lot of people talk about being in the zone, and I can just remember wanting to win so bad because we had won the year before. And that was really what was just drilled into us, that Coach Keith, who's going in this class, my high school coach, we were just it was just drilled into us to win, and that was really what it was all about. It wasn't about the individual achievements. It wasn't about anything other than trying to accomplish the goal of the team, and that was to win. And I can remember before the game, because we had played a very difficult game that morning against PRP. I think it was in the 90s in regulation. So that was a good game in itself, but I can remember telling Doug Flynn, who came in to give us a little pep talk before the game, that I couldn't even feel my legs, and I didn't know how I was going to get through the game. But once they throw the ball up and the game starts, I think just trying to do everything that you can to win, I think that was really what it was about for me, and I just wanted to win so bad that I did everything within my power to do that. After the game, I can remember some reporter come over and asked me, how it felt to have scored 51 points, and I had no idea that I had 51. I just knew that we had lost, and I would have traded every one of those points for another state championship.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Do you needle Allen at all about beating him in to the Hall of Fame? I know you guys kind of have always been linked because of that game and because he went to Tennessee and you went to Kentucky. And that.
Yeah. Well, and I think when we get a chance to talk about it, and I've played in his charity golf tournament, and when we are able to talk about basketball, it's fun knowing that I was able to get the best of him at least once. And a lot of people, I go back to the state tournament, like I said, every year, and a lot of people will say that they've been to 30, 40, 50, 60 in a row.
Yeah.
And that was the greatest individual performance that they've ever seen. And, to me, that just blows me away because it's just hard to imagine, somebody that's seen the kind of talent and the kind of great players that has come through Kentucky to say that about me. So, as I get older, it means a little bit more, but Allen went on and done some very good things at the next level and was a fabulous player, wonderful player. And had he not been part of that team, maybe we could have had back-to-back championships. But a lot of people may not know, but we played them also in the LIT that year and beat them in double overtime. So we beat them in overtime the year before, double overtime earlier in the year, and then they beat us in the state finals that year. So we had some good battles.
It was just great times, man. This is a very humbling experience to be a part of the first class.
Where'd you go to junior high?
I went to junior high school, Duval Junior High School.
Okay.
And we had a league up to male high school on Saturday morning. It was four games on Saturday.
Yeah.
And when I came out of junior high school, it was open enrollment. You could go anywhere. So all the high school coaches would come and watch that league because it was so competitive.
I've heard some people say they were almost surprised that Kentucky didn't have one of these before.
I was
when you got this
surprised
call?
when I heard about it. I thought they had one.
Yeah.
When they told me the first class, I was like, this is the first class, but I'm honored.
Were you sitting around thinking, when am I going to get into the High School Basketball Hall of Fame? And then finally they told you?
No, not really. I mean, it never did dawn on me, but I just thought they had one prior to this one.
Sure.
And I think everybody was mistaken the
The love of the coaches we had, Jim Basil, Connie Long, the hard work.
100 years ago, most high schools in the United States were smaller than they are today. It was then that basketball became the ideal interscholastic sport. It required little equipment and few people to play. The popularity of high school basketball became unrivaled in Kentucky with over 500 high school teams at one point. Every team had its town. Every town had its team. Today, basketball's popularity remains high, both in rural areas as well as in our larger cities. Many Kentucky players go on to participate at higher levels of competition after graduating high school. But the essence of high school basketball in Kentucky is more than a player's dream of college stardom. It is more than mastering the skills required to play the game. It teaches many life lessons. It teaches our children how to be competitive. It teaches fair play in an orderly, rule-based system. It teaches how to deal with the highs and lows that are embedded in competition, shaping their character in the fires of competition. It teaches that teamwork is essential for success. Players develop lifelong friendships with each other, and their coaches teach them not only the rules of the game, but mentor each player. Basketball teaches a work ethic, which creates success and boosts the player's self-confidence. And that confidence carries over in all aspects of life, from the classroom to personal decision-making. High school basketball in Kentucky teaches our children how to succeed in the real world.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Executive Director of the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame, Rick Kubry, and the Executive Director of the Kentucky Association of Basketball Coaches, Ken Trivett.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rick Kubry, and on behalf of the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame, its board of directors, the city of E-Town, and the many volunteers who have made tonight's program possible, I'd like to welcome you to Elizabethtown and this beautiful historic state theater. There are so many people who deserve, actually, to be recognized, but obviously time will not allow that. But there is one group that deserves to be recognized and will be recognized tonight, and that's each of you who are here in attendance. Thank each of you for being here and being a part of this grand and historic event. For all the children here tonight, just think, someday you can tell your grandchildren that you were here for the very first class to be inducted into the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame. For those of us who are a little older, the next hour and 45 minutes or so, settle back and enjoy the many memories of these true Kentucky hardwood legends. Whether we saw them in person, listened to them on the radio, or just read about them in books and articles, tonight that golden thread, which is high school basketball, binds us all as Kentuckians as we pay tribute to their outstanding accomplishments. Again, thank you for being here. I think you're going to really enjoy the program that's been planned. Thank you very much.
A little over 3 years ago, the Kentucky Association of Basketball Coaches took on the project of the development of the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame. Numerous selfless people worked extremely hard to bring this night to fruition. It's kind of like the game of basketball. It takes a lot of good kids, a lot of young people working together to make a team. And truly we have mastered team play in the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame's development. It is a thrill to have joined with Elizabethtown, the city of Elizabethtown, to form a partnership that will be long-lasting Without their efforts here in Elizabethtown, it would not have been possible tonight to have a Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame. We're extremely proud of what we've accomplished, but at the same time, we know why we're here tonight. We're here to honor 16 inductees. We're extremely appreciative of them being here tonight. They're part of the legacy of Kentucky High School basketball. They're part of the history and the culture of Kentucky. Once again, it's time to tip it off. So, here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your hosts for this evening. From WKYT in Lexington, Dave Baker and Christy Thomas.
Thank y'all for being here. It's the first time we've ever done a game show thing. On microphone and everything. It's great.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
What a wonderful occasion, and what an honor it is for both of us to be here. I was talking to some people outside. I don't think, and I want y'all to give yourselves a round of applause. I don't think there has ever been a collection of as many of the royalty of Kentucky basketball in one place as there is here tonight.
I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is such an honor for me to be here. As someone that grew up in a small town in Kentucky, I grew up just about 45 minutes south of here in Campbellsville and played basketball at Taylor County High School. So I've spent a lot of time in this area playing basketball, and having played basketball in a small town in Kentucky, I can tell you I am so humbled to be here and to be a part of this, because I know what Kentucky basketball means to the folks that live here, and I know what it means to actually have played the sport and how special this game really is. So I'm so humbled to be here, and so I'm sure that you are as well, to be a part of, as Dave said, such a collection of folks that you can imagine 16 people being inducted that are so deserving of this. But 2018 will mark the 100th anniversary of sanctioned high school basketball in Kentucky, and the first 100 inductees will be considered the centennial class of the Hall of Fame. This class of 2012 is technically the first installment of that centennial class. So that's very exciting to think about, working towards 100 years of basketball right here in the state.
It's humbling, but it also helps you mark that time thing that we all get worried about when you get my age. I was a transplant, as you can tell by the fact I'm vertically challenged. I never played any high school basketball. But when I got to Georgetown College, I hooked up with a fella that many of you all know, Jack Wise, and with Bernie Jenkins. And before I ever got into the television business, I was a member of the Bluegrass Basketball Officials Association, and saw some of these inductees tonight playing high school. My first experience that really got me into Kentucky high school basketball was when Bernie Jenkins, will go to the KHSA Hall of Fame this year, was called in the Sweet 16, and there were about half a dozen of us from Georgetown who called games for him, and who took over his room during the Sweet 16 and stayed there for the entire week. And ever since then, it has been a privilege for me to go out to high schools to cover events. We're on the road a lot with Kentucky and with the other things that we do, but there is such a community connection between high school athletics and in this state. And whenever I go down to Birmingham, like I will next week for the SEC football meetings, it's amazing the number of people that will come by and say, hey, tell this guy what high school basketball is like in the state of Kentucky. It is a once-in-a-lifetime event. This is a once-in-a-lifetime class. 15 state championships that are represented here tonight. 7 high school All-Americans and members of 18 different all-state teams. It is an incredible event. So let me ask one question, just so we don't have any doubt. What have you been up to since I saw you in New Orleans?
Not much.
Not much?
Not much.
Anything going on in your life?
No, not much.
Stop it.
I'm actually, having this collection of folks here reminds me, if I have it my way, my little 3-year-old girl, little daughter that's at home, will be the next Geri Grigsby that you all can be on the lookout for. Thank you. Thank you. Be on the lookout for her, playing ball somewhere in Lexington, and I'm working on the next Rex Chapman. So let's be on the lookout for him too. A couple years from now, you all will have a little something to look forward to, and then many years from now, I'll be here cheering them on as they are inducted into the Hall of Fame.
And that will show you that God will get you for your younger life, because I'm not working on any of that. I've got 3 cheerleaders right now, and I'll be at a lot of basketball
5 or 6 years, but I won't see much basketball. But it is great to be here tonight, and so enough of that. Thank you all so much for your support, for your time. I want to echo the thoughts of everybody. What E-Town does, what this community has done to continue growing and meeting and exceeding and facing challenges is incredible. The same thing is true for our inductees tonight. So now, without further ado, let's meet the 2012 class of the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame. Hall of Famers that are being inducted tonight. The house lights up and you see everybody who's out here. This is a Hall of Fame room too. There are people in this audience that are going to be in the Hall of Fame and people who are enjoying Hall of Fame careers right now. And tonight, I don't think it's any coincidence that with the success of the Sweet 16, the way it has set Kentucky apart, 16 inductees.
Absolutely, and when you talk about your travels and how folks talk about basketball in Kentucky, that's one thing they talk about is that Sweet 16 and just how special that is, and they really have a hard time wrapping their minds around how Kentucky does their Sweet 16, but there's absolutely nothing like it in all of basketball across the country. The way Kentucky does their high school championship is really unparalleled, so it's awesome to see such awesome faces down here and see all of you guys here, and for us to be able to honor you tonight. What we want to let you know too is something to note, all of our inductees are going to be coming up here in pairs. The inductees are grouped in those pairs based on various cultural, geographical, and positional commonalities. So they will all have something in common as they come up here and receive their honors tonight. So without further ado.
What did you just say? The commonalities thing and everything.
We'll talk about that after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take us away.
We'll talk about that after. Let's get going then. First up, Kentucky's king and queen of high school basketball, King Kelly Coleman and Geri Grigsby.
King Kelly Coleman, Wayland High. No legend looms larger in Kentucky high school sports than that of Kelly Coleman of the Wayland High Wasp. Playing from 1952 to 1956, the colorful King Kelly amassed a staggering 4,337 career points and a senior season scoring average of 46.8, all without the benefit of the three-point shot. The two-time All-Stater led his Wasp to a third-place finish in the exciting 1956 Sweet 16 tournament, often referred to as King Kelly's tournament. Coleman set a single-game scoring record of 68 points and 29 rebounds. That record still stands unchallenged 56 years later. King Kelly's legendary high school career ended with him being named as Kentucky's Mr. Basketball in '56, and as a Dell Sports Magazine First Team All-American.
We're here, we have King Kelly Coleman, the all-time greatest scorer in Kentucky high school basketball, averaged 47 points a game his senior year in 1956 at Wayland.
So there was 11 kids and my mom and dad, and we lived up there on that front street in a duplex that had 2 bedrooms upstairs and a living room and a kitchen downstairs and an outhouse out there. And now we all, 13 people sleeping. Now I slept on the floor on a pallet in the living room. Me and my little brother did, but now it was tough. When I was a junior in high school, I didn't even have a coat to wear, couldn't go to the prom, didn't have a jacket and a tie to wear. But now the next year I made up for that a lot, you know. I had 2 cars and 10 suits probably and all that kind of stuff.
Kelly, we're standing out in front of the pretty famous gym here in Kentucky, the Wayland High School gym. You scored a few points in here, had a heck of a career, started 4 years, scored over 4,000 points.
It's my school, it's my gym. When I played in that gym, God help you.
one drill sticks out in my mind, right, Kelly, is we beat them that day. They was playing a consolation game, and the game was going on. We came in the end of the gym to go to the dressing room. From the time we walked from the end of the gym, the other end, get dressing room, they said, "Go by Coleman." He scored 8 points the time we walked through.
I had a lot of good players. Say this, I never saw. And I've seen all the good ones, like Jerry West. I coached an all-star team against him when he's a senior, when he graduated. I think I've seen a lot of the good ones, but I've never seen anybody better than this guy. We played Whalen at Hagan during the season, on toward the last of the season.
Yeah, I remember that.
And Calhoun was really not a starter up to that point. But I started him, and he did, I thought, a good job on Kelly, because Kelly got under 50 somewhere.
Geri Grigsby, McDowell High School. The first female high school superstar in the modern era of Kentucky high school basketball was the high-scoring Geri Grigsby of the McDowell High Daredevils. From 1975 through 1977, Geri amassed a 3-season total of 4,385 points on her way to earning 3 first-team All-State honors. Her 49.8 senior season scoring average is still a state and national record, as is her 81 points in a single game during her junior season. She was Kentucky's Miss Basketball in 1977, Kentucky Sportswoman of the Year in 1978, and has since been inducted to the National High School Hall of Fame.
Our first female basketball icon in Kentucky is a member of the first class of the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame, Geri Grigsby.
So growing up in eastern Kentucky, Floyd County, and Dad was the high school boys coach at McDowell. In the 60s and the 70s, there wasn't such a thing as girls basketball. But I grew up around the game, a student of the game. I watched Dad coach, watched practices. I loved the game. And while no one was really noticing, I played a little bit and practiced a little bit. I can't think of a time when I didn't know how to dribble a basketball. I remember myself in grade school on the sidelines cheering for the boys, and also watching and thinking I could play better than the guys. Or I'd find myself stopping the cheer on the sideline and yelling at the referee. I would ask Dad, and this is, think about a girl 10 years old knowing the differences between a 2-3 or a box and chase or a man-to-man, and I'd ask them, what's your strategy, what are you going to do, and why? And of course, I was much more nervous, I think, about the game than he was. Of course, I just assumed that every other girl would be playing 4 to 6 hours a day and training and running and shooting hundreds of shots, working on dribbling drills and fundamentals, 100 free throws a day, that kind of thing. Dad would always kid me about was that the most he had ever scored in one game was 36 points. And so at the end of that first game, I scored 37. Everyone kidded Dad about his daughter beating his record the first game. Of course, I think he was the most proud.
A famous game that you played in high school against Feds Creek, where you scored 81 points. But your coach was Johnny Ray Turner.
That's correct.
Kidded Johnny Ray about you wanted to score 100, but he didn't give you enough playing time.
Probably the truth is somewhere between his version and my version. It was one of those nights where, and I believe it, I could have kicked the ball and it would have gone in. I really believe I was trained growing up to be a coach. I was built for that. I was around it. I was taught that. First of all, I know my personality, and I know how demanding I am on myself. I didn't know about pushing other kids as hard as I pushed myself, so that was part of the consideration. I also think that there were so many other interests that I loved as much, if not more, of politics and government and the arts and literature and the music that I played. If I retire from this career, who knows, maybe there's a coaching possibility. I think at this point I probably would be more patient and probably better with kids than I would have been.
How would you like for people to remember you?
That she gave it all, and she played with all her heart and with incredible desire and passion for the game, and just so grateful for that opportunity.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kelly Coleman.
And join me now in welcoming 2012 Kentucky Basketball Hall of Fame inductee, Geri Grigsby.
Geri looks exactly the same as she did in her pictures from 1977. What in the world? It's a real honor for me to make this next introduction because, as I mentioned earlier, I played basketball at Taylor County High School, so I grew up knowing an awful lot about this family and knowing an awful lot about this person who played basketball at Taylor County High School. So it's a real honor for me to introduce to you Kentucky's first family of high school basketball, Clem and Clemette Haskins.
Clem Haskins, Taylor County High. From humble beginnings on a Taylor County tenant farm, Clem Haskins earned his way to basketball glory. With dignity and class throughout his life, Clem proved to be a true pioneer, who along the way opened doors for others of his race. Playing first for Campbellsville-Durham in 59 through 61, Clem the Gem made the decision to transfer to all-white Taylor County High for his junior and senior season. Here, the big, quick, sharpshooting guard led his team to the 1963 State Sweet 16, important pivotal point in our high school sports history. While at Taylor County, Clem earned All-State and All-American honors. Clem and Dwight Smith became the first two black players to don the Hilltoppers jerseys of Western Kentucky. An outstanding professional career followed.
One of the best and most important players in the history of Kentucky high school basketball, and one of my personal favorites, is a member of the first class to be inducted into the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame. The pride of Campbellsville-Durham and Taylor County, Clem the Gem Haskins.
I'm from a large family, 11. I'm in the middle. I had two older brothers and two older sisters. And my two older brothers, they quit school and dropped out in the 5th and 6th grade. And my dad and mom only have a 3rd and 4th grade education.
Wow.
So education was not important. Work was important as I was growing up. You know, it was not about going to college, about getting a degree or getting an education. It's about being able to prepare for work and support your family. And, you know, we sharecroppers. At the time, I have to say that we lived in a situation that I didn't know personally that there was racism in the country, because we went to a black church, black school, and the friends I grew up with happened to be white. We like brothers, did everything together, and there was no racism in our neck of the woods, because we lived out in the county. I began to play basketball in the 7th, 8th grade. Mr. Irie was a coach. He talked my dad basically into letting me stay in school. I got my basketball skills on the side of a barn in an apple orchard with my good friend David Robert. And the first goal that I made in my life was with David. I was I was 11 years of age, and my brother Paul was walking across the field. He's in the apple orchard one afternoon. I can see it like yesterday. He was shooting, and he threw me a basketball. I must have been 30, 40 feet. And I caught it and threw it at the goal like a baseball, and I banked it in. My first shot, I banked it in. I fell in love with the game from that day and the rest of my life, even today. Once in a while, I still shoot a few baskets, and I think about that. And I wound up playing for a guy named John Whiting, really someone that helped me mold my life, and somebody copied a lot I owe to him. What happened to me throughout my life, God directed my life. He directed me to go to Teller County. He put David Robert in my life, and a guy named Buck had to be White into my life. And they really encouraged me to make the moves I made.
Your senior year, you went to the state tournament, beat Hardin McLean's E-Town Catholic team in the regional finals.
What a game. He's one of the finest high school coaches to ever coach a game of basketball in his state or any place in the country. He was ahead of his time in coaching.
The 1963 state tournament in Freedom Hall, that signified that a new day was here in Kentucky high school basketball.
I had most talent in the state tournament ever in the history, because if you look in that state tournament, the guys that made the all-state team wound up being NBA players.
Yes.
All NBA players. If I'm not mistaken, it was about 6 or 7 guys in the state that year wound up playing NBA. We're looking at 50 plus years ago almost. I integrated my high school and going on to Western, helped integrate Western Kentucky University at the same time. Part of history, good and bad. A lot of good came from it, from my community.
From where you came from and what you've achieved, I'm just thrilled that you are a charter member of the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame.
Clemette Haskins, Warren Central High. Playing for the Warren Central High Dragons from 1979 through 1983, Clemette Haskins proved to be one of the most versatile and talented athletes to ever grace the courts of the Commonwealth. Her accumulated totals of 2,856 points, 1,731 rebounds, 857 assists, and 533 steals proved her skills as both an individual and a team player, and earned Clemette many honors: Kentucky Athlete of the Year and Kentucky's Miss Basketball in 1983. In this same 1983 season, she led her Dragons to a state championship, followed by being named as a Kodak All-American.
In our household, basketball was the bread and butter. It was certainly a way of life in my house. My mom was the coach, and we were the team. This is the 40th year for Title IX, and I'm certainly a product of great women who have gone before me. In the early years of Title IX, I was still going to camp with boys. My dad taught me the basics, fundamentals early. And the only coaching advice that Daddy really gave me is that if you're going to play, you're going to play hard. And number 2, you're going to have fun, and if it's not fun, don't play. Then he allowed my coaches to coach me. My mom probably was the one who made that dictate, and knowing our personalities, and so she said, "You're not coaching her." The greatest high that I've ever felt as a basketball player was dreaming about being a Kentucky State champion. When I was in 6th grade, I was in Eastern Kentucky Arena, and for the first time saw what it meant to play basketball in front of thousands of people. Later that year, I would see Donna Murphy play in the Kentucky-Indiana basketball game. It was the first time that I started to dream and to see a woman doing what I thought I could do. To be able to see that, dream that in 6th grade, and then as a senior in high school, to go to the Eastern Kentucky Arena, win a state championship, I can feel it now. I can hear it, I can sense it, I can smell it. Nothing matches being a Kentucky State champion. I think I'm most proud that I had as many assists as I did points. I think I'm most proud that I participated in a team sport. My high school principal, David Crow, passed away last year, and towards the end of his life, he called for me. And at his bedside, he told me the reason why the Warren Central Girls Basketball Championship was so special to so many was because there was a girls basketball team, I believe in the 1920s or 1930s, from Woodburn, Kentucky, who won a girls basketball championship. And he wanted to make sure that I knew and understood the history and what that meant to people then and what our state championship meant to people in Bowling Green in 1983. And he gave me his high school championship ring that I cherish. I hope in some small way that us winning a championship in Bowling Green, that there were other girls that believed that they could also bring not just a trophy home, but bring people together. This 1983 championship, the really special thing was that so many girls from around the state went to Western. The home girls, if you will, from Kentucky that made Western Kentucky go to 2 Final Fours in a row. The specialness of Kentucky basketball bleeding into Western Kentucky is what made us go into 2 Final Fours at Western Kentucky very, very special. To be inducted with so many greats in Kentucky is a bit astonishing to me. It's something special to be part of the first class, and I feel tremendously honored to be part of such a select group of people. Certainly going in with my father is one of the most fond memories that I will cherish. As I get older, I understand more importantly how monumental this is. And certainly some of the most important and formative years of my life was about Kentucky high school basketball.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Clem Haskins.
And it's my distinct pleasure to also welcome to the class, Clemette Haskins.
You know, folks, for those of us, I think I actually got back to the state when I went to college at Georgetown in 1978, and in that modern era, everybody talks about the Sweet 16 and about Lexington. But for many in this room, in the course of growing up, and we forget about a lot, Louisville's the biggest city, it's got the biggest engine, and for many, many years, it was the biggest basketball destination, Christy, and it produced the biggest amount of great talent in this talent-laden state.
Absolutely, and I think as someone coming from a small town, you do wonder about those big city folks and how things are going, like fine-tuned, fine-oiled machines in the big city.
Boy, and it happened for this pair. Our next inductees, the men from Mayo, big city stars, same high school, NCAA champions, Mr. Ralph Beard and Mr. Darrel Griffith.
Ralph Beard, Louisville Male High. Described as the fastest, most aggressive, and competitive player of his era, Ralph Beard was the first four-sport letterman in Louisville Male history. From 1941 through 1945, Ralph led his Bulldogs to a 1943 state baseball championship, and both a state track championship and state basketball title in 1945. His burning desire to always be the best led him to be named two-time All-State in basketball, as well as high school All-American honors. His post-high school career included an NIT championship, an NIT runner-up, 2 NCAA championships, and a 1948 Olympic gold medal. In 2011, Male High School honored his memory by naming its playing floor as Ralph Beard Court.
Winning the state championship in the Louisville Armory, playing for Male High against Central City, at that point of my life was the highlight, and I wasn't sure that it would get any better than that, because I was an old country boy from Hardinsburg, Kentucky, that my mom had moved to Louisville when I was 15. We had no money and everything. She had to move to Louisville. My mom hadn't, hell, I doubt she went past the 2nd grade. She was a smart woman, but wasn't educated. But anyway, she moved me to Louisville, left my brother with her parents in Hardinsburg, Kentucky. We lived in a 3-room apartment. There were 6 others. She cleaned those 6 so we could live in those 3. I mean, in that 3-room apartment. She was a guard at Curtis Wright because she had no education. She was a seamstress at Bix, had no life whatsoever. She did the same thing for my brother. And so I moved 5 blocks away from Male High, and that's where I decided to go to school, which was one of the best decisions that I ever made, or that the good Lord ever let me make. Played under the best coaches, Coach Jenkins, Coach Glenn, Coach Hummel, Coach Krause, Coach Nick Dennis. All those people were my father figures because my dad left whenever I was 7. I'm just trying to give you a brief history as to how much I love Male High. And at these guys, they sort of led me through the world, and they sort of took care of me as well as my coaches. Ralph Beard was the luckiest dude in the whole world to be able to play basketball. I was a stutterer, couldn't talk, anything else, but yeah, I could play basketball a little, and that's the only thing I ever really wanted to do. And yeah, I could play the D, I could shut somebody down, I was cat quick, I could pass it, I could shoot it. Good Lord bless me, that's all. I like a workman-like attitude, and that's what expected of you. It wasn't a game to me, it was a way of life. And the good Lord gave me the sense to earn a living. I've done all right, but it still wasn't like playing pro basketball in the NBA till they cut my shoes off. Cliff Hagan was probably the smoothest dude that I ever saw. You had to be maybe 6'4" in the pivot, and his hook shot was a thing of beauty, and he held it so far out to hook it that a lot of big guys could not reach it. We came back as juniors, and about that time the NCAA was coming on pretty good, and so Coach Rupp says, I think we'll try the NCAA. So we did, and we won that. And then on the following year that we came back and won it again between our junior and senior year, that our first 5 was selected to go with the Oilers' first 5 and 4 alternates and play in London, England, and we won a gold medal. I'll tell you what, standing on Wembley Stadium with 84,000 screaming fans, and they're playing the Star Spangled Banner, man, I mean, I still get goose pimples like this, and I'm 73.
Darrel Griffith, Louisville Male High. No Kentucky high school player of the mid-1970s played with more athleticism or ability than the legendary Darrel Griffith of Louisville Male High. Known for his amazing jumping and dunking abilities, Darrel was both respected and feared by his opponents as he led the Bulldogs to 3 state championship games, including 1975 when they won it all. In both 75 and 76, Darrel earned all tournament honors as well as all state honors. In 1976, it came as a surprise to no one when he was named Kentucky's Mr. Basketball, as well as High School All-American. A highly successful college career with the Doctors of Dunk at the University of Louisville resulted in the school's first NCAA championship. A long and fruitful NBA career followed.
When I say Dr. Dunkenstein, everybody knows who I'm talking about. The legendary Darrel Griffith.
I grew up in the west end of Louisville, 4 or 5 blocks from Chickasaw Park, which is pretty much where I went to play ball against all the older guys, and they used to throw my ball over the pond. And me and Bobby Turner was just persistent enough to go back and forth, keep playing, and so one day they let us play.
Do you remember the first time you dunked in competition?
I think I was in the 9th grade, and we were playing against the team Artis Gilmore was on, and he had gotten a rebound and threw it out, and I intercepted, and it was just me and him. So he didn't know who I was. I knew who he was, you know. And there was no way I was going to try to lay the ball up, and I don't think he expected me, this young kid in 9th grade, to come right at him, and I went in and dunked on him.
Those high school years are always special.
Yeah, high school's always special because that's the foundation of where you're going to go in life when it comes to academics and sports. We've got the record for the largest attendance of one high school game. My junior year, we played Central and during the regular season at Freedom Hall, and there was 16,000 people there.
Wow.
For a high school game. Winning state championships in Male High was a norm back then, so it was expected of us. And we wanted to follow the 70-71 team and win 2. You know, left Male High School and went to University of Louisville. I had 2 goals in mind, Billy. One was to get my degree in 4 years, and the other one was to win a national championship. A friend of mine told me that I'm probably the only high school player in the state of Kentucky that was that got College Player of the Year. I said, you might be right. You know, it was an honor for me to be the first high school player to get invited to the Olympic trials coming out of high school. That was an experience for me. You know, going down to North Carolina, competing against the best, and that brought out the best in me. And I think it enabled me to be where I was at skill-wise.
Really wanted to thank you too, Darrel, not first of all for all the entertainment, all the great moments that you've given us, but secondly, just being the kind of person that you are. You've been extremely loyal to Louisville and Kentucky. You've always been somebody that young people can look up to. They know they can't emulate the things you did on the basketball floor, but they can emulate the kind of person you've been, the kind of values that you've always had, and I just wanted to thank you for that.
I immediately have to think of my parents and the way I was brought up, you know, my brothers and sisters and the coaches that coached me along the way, teachers that taught me along the way, people and friends that I've associated with. All that has an effect on how you turn out as a person, how that defines your character. I never forget them, and never forget the people of Louisville who've always were supportive of me, and hope that I brought them a good time, because that's why I played the game. It was fun.
Accepting on behalf of her late husband, would you please welcome Betty Beard.
And please welcome 2012 Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Darrel Griffith. Christy, who do you think would win the dunk-off right now between Darrel and Rex?
Let's find out, should we? Oh,
Rex said Darrel.
Yeah, right. But as Darrel mentioned, 16,000 people to turn out to watch a high school basketball game, I think, says all you need to know about what basketball means to the people of this state.
It's not only the people of this state, but again, when you look at the accomplishments of this class, 11 NCAA All-Americans, 6 NBA championships, 6 NCAA championships, 2 NBA championships, 2 Olympic gold medals. It was a foundation that was forged here in this state and taken out to really conquer the world.
I was joined at KYT about 13 years ago, and so I've been covering high school athletics ever since then. And of course, as you enter into that world, one of the first 2 names that you hear about are our next 2 folks. And if you're going to be covering high school athletics in the state of Kentucky or even in Lexington, you better know all about these 2 folks. So would you please welcome the Lexington legends, Coach S.T. Roach and Coach Ralph Carlisle.
S.T. Roach, Lexington Dunbar High, a true gentleman, scholar, teacher, and community leader. S.T. Roach guided the Lexington Dunbar Bearcats basketball program from 1943 to 1965. Coming from Bate High in Danville, where he was an all-state basketball player, he eventually returned as head coach for his alma mater. Coach Roach won 98 games before becoming head coach at Lexington Dunbar High. At Dunbar, ST built a dynasty while winning 512 games, capturing 6 regional titles and 2 Kentucky High School Athletic League state championships. ST Roach set lifetime examples for his players while overcoming obstacles and difficulties with class and dignity. In the early 1960s, changes came and he led the Bearcat teams into 2 KHSAA Sweet 16 tournaments.
Sanford T. Roach was the head basketball coach at Dunbar High School from the early 1940s until 1965. He not only produced winning basketball teams, he probably did more than any other single individual to help integrate high school basketball in Kentucky. We have 3 former players representing 3 decades
In 1948, I was blessed to be on his first state championship team. In 1949, we ran second. So I guess I ran the gamut, first, second, and third. It was never just the game, but it was being a student athlete. He would lay out the game plan, and then he would tell you, now if you don't do this, you'll make it hard for yourself. Do you realize that works in life as well? If you don't follow the rules, you'll make it hard for yourself. And so we've all tried to be good citizens as well.
I always had a little bit of a temper problem. And I just knew I was going to play, you know, because I felt the team needed me so much. After I'd made our run out to and warmed up, and he'd say, "Bert, you're not starting." When he felt he had disciplined me enough, getting back to that being a disciplinarian, he said, "Oh, whether we're winning or losing, okay, you can get in." But it made me come right back down to the ground immediately and realize who was in control.
Our community, when it was a basketball game, it was like, what was it, like a big neighborhood thing,
Absolutely.
like a church thing. It was
That's right.
quiet. When I say quiet, everybody was trying to get to the basketball game. And that, like I said, as a young person, to see that, it makes you want to play basketball.
Right. If you played on either first or second squad at Dunbar, you could go to school, because the whole idea was to go on to higher education, do what you could to make this a better place for all of us. And so I think his legacy has to be that he took the very tough times, smoothed them out for the young people who came under his tutelage. I think we validated all that he had thought was the right way.
He made an indelible imprint on the mind of all of us, and we'll always, he'll always be in our hearts. He looked out for us.
Our parents relied on Coach Roach.
Oh my goodness.
If he said it was so, it was so.
And also in our neighborhood, Mr. Roach was so respected. Everybody knew we had a curfew. And if they would see a ball plug out, they would call him and tell him.
We go on to try to do the right thing. And I believe as citizens, it can be said that we've done that. And I'm very comfortable that having known him, I'm a better fella.
Ralph Carlisle, Lexington Lafayette, Generals. From Cavanaugh High School, where he played in 2 state tournaments, Ralph Carlisle would launch a legendary coaching career at Lexington Lafayette from 1945 through 1961. As coach of the Generals, he accumulated 11 district titles and 6 regional championships. In 6 state tournament trips, his team played in 4 title games, winning 3 championships in 1950, 53, and 57. His career win total of 488 helped earn him 2 Coach of the Year honors, and his peers chose him as Coach of the Decade for the 1950s.
With me today to discuss the career of the legendary Ralph Carlisle, coach at Lafayette High School, are 3 members of his state championship teams.
He was really a competitive coach. He'd pick a player off during practice and take him over to the side and outshoot him like long 20-foot shots. He could still hit the basket when he was coaching at Lafayette.
Fundamentally, he was probably the most outstanding. His knowledge of the game and the ability to make the players make good passes, not make mistakes, play good defense.
He played Paducah Tillman in the final game, and I think we beat them 87-53. I think that is the largest margin of victory in the final game that maybe still stands today. But the starting team only played a half a game, and we were all sitting there upset that all the subs were getting to score more points than we were scoring. But it was a fun time. We celebrated about the same way on fire trucks in the parade downtown, and it's a big time.
We played Louisville Eastern in the second game of the season, and we got beat by 1 point over Lafayette. And I'm sure Vernon and Jim could tell you the similar stories, but we get beat by 1 point, second game of the season, and we spent literally a couple hours in the locker room never got undressed. Carlisle going from player to player, ranting and raving.
Did Ralph Carlisle get out of coaching because he couldn't beat Dunbar, or was it just that he did decide that he had enough coaching and wanted to go sell insurance?
I just heard him one time say, well, I can make more money selling insurance, and I think he got to a point in age where that became a factor.
You didn't get to play if you didn't buy an insurance policy from him. So everybody that ever played for Coach Carlisle still has an insurance policy.
He's a very competitive person, so maybe he's smarter than I am, but I always said myself, I could get beat time after time, but I was dumb enough to think that I could still win the next time, and I think he was probably had some of the same nature.
Like an insurance salesman, normally you see him coming up the street, you'll walk across the street not to talk to him, but you see Carlisle walking up the street, you'll cross the street so you can talk to him. Now, we loved Ralph Carlisle. He's a big influence on my life, and I love the man.
He would like to be remembered that some 20 to 25 of his players were given college scholarships to play ball and graduated.
Coach Carlisle wanted to help each boy kind of learn how to grow up and be a person, be a man, and be an honest person in their dealings. And
Jimmy started a luncheon here several years ago, and I guess it started basically with the 50 team. We'll have anywhere from 60 to 70 or former Lafayette players. I think that shows the respect that we all had for Mr. Carlisle, that we still get together in his honor the way I.
And we all stretch the truth a little bit. The stories get bigger and bigger every year. We're better players now than we were when we played.
Accepting on behalf of the late S.T. Roach, please welcome former player Julian Jackson.
And accepting on behalf of his father is Corky Carlisle. Almost 1,100 wins between those two coaches. Amazing.
And besides that, the impact they've had on those players, that is a theme we have heard tonight, and that is one of the major reasons that this organization has come together to induct this first class. We hear so often in sports, and certainly in basketball, how things are cyclical. You know, it's fast break this, and then it's motion offense, and then it's guards. But our next two inductees, they were cutting-edge centers who their play in this state really redefined their positions, and their character helped bridge a societal divide. Please join me in welcoming the marvelous men in the middle, Wes Unseld and Jim McDaniels.
Wes Unseld, Louisville Seneca High. Recognized as one of the most dominating centers in Kentucky high school history, Wes Unseld played for Louisville Seneca High from 1961 to 1964. His reputation as an outlet passer, rebounder, and defensive player is unequaled, and his record totals of 72 and 88 rebounds in the 63 and 64 state tournaments remain unchallenged. With 2 state trophy titles in 63 and 64 and the title of Kentucky's Mr. Basketball in 64, Wes took his talents on to a successful college career at the University of Louisville, followed by a long and stellar career in the NBA. His NBA career is highlighted by a Most Valuable Player award and his induction into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame.
High school, we were very successful. I had a brother before me at the same high school who was a high school All-American and very successful, went on to college. It has nothing but fond memories. As far as the basketball was concerned, it was a gentleman by the name of Carl Wright. He was, I don't know, he's just somebody I wanted to emulate more than anybody. I remember I got cut my 8th grade year. He decided he was going to take me on as a project, and the first thing we did was went to the YMCA downtown Louisville, only to be told that I couldn't come in there to play basketball on the court. Well, Mr. Wright, he was 6'5", built like Adonis, and he didn't want to hear any of that. So after tearing the place up, we left, and from then on, I knew that there was somebody on my side that, I just really admired, and we worked, and he worked me, and worked me to the point where there were days where I cried, but he wouldn't let me quit. So the next year, I was all-state. The work ethic definitely comes from my parents. My father, was an oiler at International Harvester. He worked the graveyard shift for just about his whole work life. And in the morning, when he got off, he did construction work, which during the summer times and off times, we joined him. And, I packed brick, block, mortar, whatever it took to work. And the whole family did that. My brothers were all very work-oriented, and they still are. I've always thought that basketball, as others have said, was something that I did. I never thought it was who I was, because I'd always wanted to do other things. Well, I hope I've had an impact. That to get to where you see the LeBron James and Michael Jordans and the Shaqs and all those people, you've got to consider yourself a freak. You really are. If you were not, everybody would be there. I've always said mine was either God-given or Charles Unseld given by making me carry all those blocks and bricks up, ladders. But it somehow happens that way. I've been fortunate to take advantage of the little space that I've had along the way as far as what I've done. The most important thing, and I know this is corny, but when you get to my age, you can afford to be corny, is that I've got two of the most wonderful children in the world. And I'm not bashful. I once heard a man say, being bashful is the modesty is the highest esteem you have for yourself and the ability to hide it from others. Well, when it comes to those two, I don't try to hide. They've turned out to be great people, and I am so proud of that. So that's my line right there.
Jim McDaniels, Allen County High. From 1963 through 1967, Jim McDaniels played high school basketball for the Allen County Patriots. With little background or experience in the sport, Jim developed quickly under the guidance of friends and coaches. By the end of his high school year, the 7-foot center had scored over 3,000 points and pulled down over 2,000 rebounds, one of only 4 players ever in state history to do it. During his senior season in 1967, Jim averaged an outstanding 38 points and 25 rebounds per game, while leading his team to a trip to the state tournament. Named as Kentucky's Mr. Basketball in 1967, Jim McDaniels teamed with other future Hilltoppers to defeat the Indiana All-Stars in Louisville. In this game, Jim completely dominated with 42 points, something he frequently did in Freedom Hall. In 1967, he was named as All-American, followed with a brilliant career at Western Kentucky and the pros.
Jim McDaniels is arguably the best big man ever produced in the state of Kentucky. A 7-footer, he led Allen County to the state tournament. Later on, went to be an All-American, first-team All-American at Western Kentucky University, and played several years in the ABA and NBA.
Large family, it was 7 kids, and I was the oldest, 2 brothers, 4 sisters, mother and a grandmother. My mother worked 3 jobs, taking care of us, had a stepfather who was in and there and out, and but my mother really took care of the financial aspect, and my grandmother was at home cooking and taking care of the kids. I basically was raised by 2 women. Jim Basil actually literally changed my life. I've always loved the coach, and he's passed away now. But Jim Basil became like a father figure to me. He was a great mentor. When I transferred my sophomore year, and the very first day of practice, he pulled me aside, came out on the court, talking to me about basketball and literally told me that he believed with hard work that I could be one of the best, if not the best basketball players ever come out of the state of Kentucky. Well, no one's ever told me I could be anything, first of all, and then to tell me something that unbelievable, it really hit my spirit. And then he asked me, do you think we can do the things that I'm talking about, that you would really be willing to sacrifice and do the things and pay the price? I said, yes, sir. And, you know, I like to say the rest is history. I made my family very proud. I remember I used to come home from the games at night. We didn't even have a radio back in those days. We couldn't afford a radio. That was a luxury. And I'd come home and my whole family would be up waiting for me to come home. And I'd say we won or lost, which was most of the time we won. And we'd be celebrating 11 o'clock at night. And it was just a big family thing. But it really uplifted my family. Is what sports did for my family. I averaged 38.6 in my senior year in high school and 25 rebounds. High game was 63 points. But in the state tournament, I think I had maybe 45 points a game, a couple of games there. Had a phenomenal senior year. I had been a fan of the Hilltoppers for several years before because of Clem Haskins and Dwight Smith. And I loved Johnny Olam, who stayed at my house. Ed Diddle was at my house. I mean, I spent a lot of time with Dwight Smith and a lot of time with Clem Haskins, and he was my favorite player. And I was quite honored that he was all the time spending time with me. But I was born to be a Hilltopper. To me, to come to where I'm at now and to be in this Hall of Fame from the background that I have, it don't get any better than that. It doesn't get any better than that for me. I'm quite honored to be in this. 100 years of the best basketball players, high school basketball players in the state of Kentucky. And to be one of those guys, to be an honor, is tremendously huge for me and my family. And I am very grateful.
Would you please join me in congratulating our newest inductee into the Basketball Hall of Fame, Wes Unseld.
Join me now in welcoming 2012 Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Jim McDaniels. Those two together like that. Did you notice how very subtly Wes was putting his knee into Jim's thighs back there to get better
position? Not so subtle, right?
It was a veteran move. There's no question about that.
That's a fantastic picture there to see two of the best big men to ever play the game in the state of Kentucky on one stage together after all these years. That's really fantastic. So for this next combo, you can't really even imagine a Sweet 16 in the mid-'80s without these two. When you hear their names, you'll know exactly why. As we talked about how special the Sweet 16 is, in the 80s, these two were a big reason why. So would you please welcome now the Clay County Connection, Richie Farmer and Bobby Keith.
Richie Farmer, Clay County High. Added to the long list of outstanding Eastern Kentucky sharpshooters and high scorers is the name of Clay County High's Richie Farmer. Playing for the Tigers from 1984 through 1988, Richie led his team to an incredible 3 state tournament title games during his 5 trips to the Sweet 16. Along the way, he broke numerous scoring records. His career was capped off by a 1987 state championship in which he earned the tourney's Most Valuable Player award. Following the championship year, Richie gave a legendary 52-point performance against Ballard High in the 1988 title game. 3 times he earned selection to the All-State team. His senior season, Richie was named Kentucky's Mr. Basketball.
I think I've been playing basketball for as long as I can remember. When I was 4 years old, I used to get up with my dad at 6:30 in the morning before he would go off to work. And he would show me something that he wanted me to work on as far as basketball. And he would go off to work, and of course I would make Mom fix bologna sandwiches and a pop so I wouldn't have to come in for lunch, and I would go outside and play basketball all day long. You know, I have to give most of the credit to my dad. He knows basketball, and he's got an unbelievable amount of patience. But he's always been, you know, there for me and my brother, and I think that he has been the most instrumental figure in my basketball career.
I was one of those kids that basketball was my life. I think everybody that played in elementary school, they wanted to first someday become a Clay County Tiger.
I was fortunate enough to play in high school for Bobby Keith, who I feel like is probably the greatest high school coach that's ever coached basketball in the state of Kentucky. And then I went on and was able to play for a pretty good coach in college in Rick Pitino. So, you know, with all those guys, I think all those guys have had some influence on my basketball life. I came to the Sweet 16 with Clay County 5 times. I came as an 8th grader and then all 4 years in high school. And I actually played in the final game 3 times in my high school career. I think every kid that picks up a basketball and plays high school basketball, I think one of their main dreams and one of their main goals is to get to the state tournament and to be able to play in Rupp Arena in front of, you know, 15, 18, 20,000 people. Of course, Ballard, just an unbelievable high school team. You know, of course, they had Allen Houston and Mark Bell and Kenneth Martin, and they just had some unbelievable talent. And, you know, of course, we had a pretty good high school team as well. You know, as a sophomore, he called me in to his office, Bobby Keith did, and, you know, he said, I know that you're starting to think that you can play right now, but he said, I'm going to tell you, you can't play yet. And he said, I'll tell you, you'll be able to play the day that I walk up to you and I put my arm around you and tell you that you can play. And that kind of meant a lot to me, you know, and I thought, well, you know, maybe he's right. He told me during that meeting, he said, do you want to be Mr. Basketball in the state of Kentucky? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, well, if you'll do everything that I ask you to do and you'll work as hard as I ask you to work, then when you're a senior, you'll be Mr. Basketball. And, you know, that's all he had to say to me. And you know, from that point, I was just hungry for knowledge and wanted to get in there and work and do the things that he asked me to do. That year that we won the state championship, I know for Clay County, Clay Countyans, and, you know, all of southeastern Kentucky, it was a great, great day. And I think it just meant so much to the people from the mountains. And I think it just let people know that people from the mountains could compete with the city schools, the Lexington schools, the Louisville schools. And, you know, I would have traded that MVP trophy and those 51 points for another state championship.
I've been going to the Sweet 16 for years, and without fail, there's always people that will say, I've been to 40 in a row without missing. I've been to 50, 60, some people even 70, you know. I've been coming that many years, and that is one of the greatest games that I ever saw. That's pretty special to be a part of something like that. And I've always said that we have the greatest high school basketball in the country, in the nation, in the world here in Kentucky, and I hope that can continue.
Bobby Keith, Clay County High. In 27 years as head coach of the Clay County Tigers, Bobby Keith led his teams to 767 victories. He set a state record with 18 Sweet 16 appearances, 7 of these consecutively from 1984 through 1990. In 1987, his Tigers took home the championship trophy by winning in front of 24,000 people in Rupp Arena. He was 2-time runner-up in 85 and 88. And from 1984 through 93, his teams amassed an amazing total of 129 straight home court victories. 5 times, Coach Keith has been honored as the Kentucky High School Coach of the Year. He was named the Kentucky Coach of the Decade for the 1980s, as well as being recognized as National Coach of the Year in his tenure as the Tigers head coach.
70s, 80s, and 90s, it almost wasn't a state tournament unless Clay County was there and Coach Bobby Keith. State championships, great players, always competitive, and a great record.
4 or 5 years I thought I would retire, but people talked to me and everything, and I came back, and I was glad I did. My health had been better. I'd like to coach another 10, 15 years because
I definitely enjoyed it. My father was a wonderful person. Had a third-grade education, but he had a theory. If you did anything, you did it correct and you did it right. Once we laid a concrete wall. I helped him when I was about 12. At 12, it had a little crook in it. He tore it down the next day and said, do it right. From the 6th or 7th grade on, I dreamed about playing for Clay County High School. Finally, when I was a junior in high school, I'd grown from 5'1" as a freshman to 6'1" as a junior. I played. 6'3" as a senior, played well. And then after I graduated from Union College, I can remember the last night that I played my last game at Union College. I sat on the bed and I cried because I said, I'm not going to be playing basketball anymore. I love the game that much. This may sound a little bit egotistical. I think to be a great coach, you have to want the spotlight. You have to want to get up there in front and say, this is my team and we are going to do something great. A lot of coaches say, I don't want to be ranked number 1. I always told our team, we want to be number 1 in the state. We do not want to be number 2. When I started coaching in 70, we went to state tournament pretty consistently, 73, 74, 75, 76, 78, 79, 80, 82, 84. And every year we lost in the first round or the second round. And every year I talked to my team before the season started. I said, our goal is to win this regional tournament. And in 84, we got to the quarterfinals before we lost. I told my wife, I said, I've been to enough regional tournaments. I've won enough of them. I want to do more. So I went back the next year and I told the boys, we will have 3 goals. Number 1, we want to go undefeated. Number 2, we want to be number 1. Number 3, we want to be a state champion. We had an undefeated team in '89 all season. Went to the state tournament. We won a state championship in '87. We got to be runner-up in '85 and '88. We were ranked number 1 in the state 6 times. So you don't always reach your goals. But I decided if you really want something, don't settle for something mediocre. Reach as high as it's possible that you think you might go. And also it was a heyday of support for Kentucky basketball. We used to draw 3,000 every game down there in Clay County. Now we're lucky to get 700 or 800. I'd like to see the old days when she's full again.
Congratulations to you on the Hall of Fame. Thank you for everything you've done for basketball in the state of Kentucky all these years.
Thank them for inviting me. I cannot believe that I could possibly be included in the top 4 coaches ever in this state.
There is not a game day that goes by that I don't get a phone call, a tweet, a text, or somebody on the air saying, Dave, is Richie going to play tonight? Please join me in welcoming 2012 Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Richie Farmer.
And with 767 wins to his credit, would you please congratulate Coach Bobby Keith?
Basketball, we've seen just a glimpse of it tonight here in this state. We know about it. We've lived it in the big cities of Lexington and Louisville. We just heard about the Clay County story in the eastern part of the state, and that extended all the way down to the western part of the state, as we heard earlier as well. And it's not, it's about the excitement. It's obviously about the success and young people coming together for a common goal and all of that, but it's about the excitement as well. And next up, 2 individuals who were stars of their time. They were talented, they were hardworking, they had some sizzle too. Please join me in welcoming Owensboro's dynamic duo, Cliff Hagan and Rex Chapman.
Cliff Hagan, Owensboro High. Playing for the Owensboro High Red Devils from 1945 through 1949, Cliff Hagan broke all of his high school scoring records. With great quickness, strength, and a picture-perfect hook shot, the 6'4" center led his 49 Red Devil team to a state championship win over Lexington Lafayette. His title game performance included 41 points, is still regarded as one of the Sweet 16's greatest all-time performances. 3 times named as first-team All-State, Cliff would go on to win an NCAA championship, an NBA championship, and then serve as athletic director at his alma mater, the University of Kentucky.
Cliff Hagan, who led the Owensboro Red Devils to the 1949 state championship by scoring 41 points in the Louisville Armory. Cliff went on to become an All-American for Adolph Rupp at the University of Kentucky and an All-Pro with the St. Louis Hawks of the NBA. He surely is one of the all-time great high school basketball players.
Coming from Owensboro, Kentucky, I didn't see a basketball till I was probably in about the 5th grade, and went down to the gym one afternoon, and these guys were down there tossing a ball around, and so I joined them, and that was the start of it. Then I had some good size, which helped, 6'2", 6'3", then 6'4". All my older brothers were in the war, so I didn't have a family member participating in sports, that kind of thing. So it was sort of on my own. My grandmother said, "Why are you wasting your time playing basketball?" And I didn't really have an answer at the time. But I often think about where I might be had it not been for basketball. State tournament is very special to me. I had 41 points, and they had 47. At halftime, I had more points than Lafayette. The state tournament is extremely difficult on a young person. You play 4 games in 3 days, and that Saturday you're playing in the morning, and we went back to the hotel, and I started getting cramps in my legs. I couldn't move to get up in a standing move without being helped up, so I didn't know if I was going to be able to play that night or not. But lo and behold, I did, and it seemed like I was in the right place, and everything I threw up went in, and I was strictly a one-sport kind of guy, and did work, and trained, did those things that were ingrained in me as a player at Kentucky. Getting into the Hall of Fame, and I didn't have those kind of dreams. I was actually the first University of Kentucky basketball player to be in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts. I've been blessed. My family's been blessed. Everything's great with the family and the grandkids now. I went to good schools and had good coaches, but I had help along the way. My junior high school teacher was an old maid school teacher, Mary Nancy Wilson, and she was sort of my mentor. And she even kept a scrapbook all my years of playing in high school and in college. Then she presented them to me and my fiance when we were getting married at the time. Talk about being a representative of your, and some athletes don't think they are. Well, I always felt I was, coming from a small town, and everybody knew you, and almost once I got in high school, people knew you, your face, that kind of thing. And almost anywhere I went, I felt I was recognized, whether I was or not. I felt I was, so I had to be on my P's and Q's from the time I was about 15 on through college, then on through pro ball, that kind of thing, and felt I had an obligation to live up to what people expected of me from my hometown, from my university, from my state, you know.
Rex Chapman, Owensboro Apollo High. From 1982 through 1986, no one in Kentucky played high school basketball with more flair and athleticism than Rex Chapman of Owensboro Apollo High. Packing gymnasiums wherever his Eagles played, the Owensboro native excited the crowds with feats of athletic ability seldom seen on basketball courts. In his junior year of 1985, King Rex led his team to the quarterfinals of the Sweet 16. His list of individual honors is long and includes Kentucky Mr. Basketball for 1986, Gatorade State Player of the Year, Parade All-American, AP Player of the Year, and McDaniels All-American in his senior year.
Playing in the Sweet 16 in Kentucky for a kid that grows up in Kentucky is about as good as it gets. You know, I played in thousands of basketball games in my life, and I know two of the more poignant moments in my career, one being a real great moment, was winning the 3rd region when I was a junior in high school. And of qualifying to go to the Sweet 16. You know, I'd come to the Sweet 16 as a kid with my father for years, and you know, thought that was just the pinnacle. And we got beat on the last second shot in my senior year in the first game of the district, and didn't get to come back. And you know, that was heartbreaking at the time. It still is heartbreaking that we didn't get to come back. I was Mr. Basketball in 1986, a big honor. You know, there's only one a year, and I don't know how many years they've been doing that now. To play in the Kentucky-Indiana series is a great honor, and you know, to wear that number 1 on your jersey is an even bigger thrill. It seems like I always played my best when it was a big game, and or made big plays at big times, and I think that's probably what I'm most proud of in my career. Incredible amount of God-given ability and talent. I was also blessed to have played 12, 13 years of professional basketball and do something that I enjoyed doing and something that I was good at. Well, the success of basketball in the state, you know, reaches far beyond Kentucky and Louisville. You've got a lot of smaller schools, Division II, Division III, and AIA schools that have their own, you know, rich history of tradition and winning championships. It's particularly good for the fans of basketball here in the state because, you know, I know that living in Western Kentucky, I had a lot of people that had never driven 2.5 hours to see the University of Kentucky play. And they can go, you know, 5 minutes there in their hometown and watch Kentucky Wesleyan play and follow the great tradition that they've had. You know, when my father was there, they won a couple of national titles. Basketball is it's for everyone. It's not only for the players that are fortunate enough and gifted enough to come to a place like Kentucky or Louisville, but you know, just as good for players that are playing Division II basketball and Division III and so on. There are so many more states when you look at Georgia and Florida and New York, California, that have so many more talented players. But you go to those state tournaments and there's 1,000 people in the stands. It's just not the rabid following that there is here. Player for player, you know, other states way outman the state of Kentucky. But as far as the following and people just loving their teams and loving basketball, there's no place like Kentucky.
Would you please congratulate Hall of Fame inductee Clem Hagan.
Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Rex Chapman.
that the KHSA Basketball Hall of Fame want to accomplish, other than just providing this type of scenario this evening. Several of them are developing a mobile unit to be able to travel around the state to reconnect people to the heritage of basketball in our state, and a lot of that heritage we've seen tonight. So I think that's a fantastic idea, and really looking forward to them being able to do that. The other thing is you've seen coaching legends here tonight, and there are others of you in the room who will be future inductees into this Hall of Fame. And so there's a mentoring process that they'd like to be able to put in place for that as well. So I think that that's another fantastic resource for our coaches right here in the state to be able to really tap in to a lot of really fantastic coaching legends right here in our backyard.
You know, Christy, I've talked to the guys. I think you can make it part of a curriculum. I mean, just think about it. If you got 16 inductees next year, you've got one of those mobile labs like the C-SPAN bus. You take it to those regions. You get those young people to come out and see what this is all about, and you can see just how well and how important we all believe that team sports is in terms of educating our young people. I think it's a great idea.
Another one of those coaching legends is up next as we introduce you to the unmatched men from the mountains, Coach Roy Bowling and Wawa Jones.
Roy Bowling, Laurel County High. With the arrival of girls basketball in the 1970s, it took little time for the Laurel County Lady Cardinals to establish dominance. Leading the way was Coach Roy Bowling, who would guide the Cardinals from 1974 through the 1989 season. During these 15 years, his teams would chalk up 403 wins while losing only 61. Along the way, Roy's teams would win 19 district, 8 regional, and 4 state titles, 3 of which came during a remarkable stretch in 1977, 78, and 79. The 4th state title was earned in 1987. Setting a state record, Coach Bowling's Lady Cards won 73 consecutive games. Roy Bowling finished his high school coaching career by building a successful program at Louisville Mercy High.
Roy, congratulations on your election to the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame.
It's an honor and a privilege to be chosen in this class, and I'm just so thankful and appreciate the Kentucky High School Coaches Association doing this, because they're going to be picking real people that really deserve to be in it, and it's a great thing. My high school coach, Albert Hodges, he was very instrumental in me becoming a coach, because I liked what he was doing and the way he did it, and he was very, very instrumental. He was a fine gentleman. Coach Rupp, I worshipped him, and I went to every clinic that he ever spoke at.
Most of your fame as a coach, most of your success, of course, is with the girls team at Laurel County.
My first love in coaching was to coach baseball. I love basketball too. First 2 years, I coached both baseball and basketball. 1 year I was in 72 games. Goodness gracious. I was killed. And so after the third year, I saw that we had a real good chance of winning a state tournament with those kids. Well, I just went out and got a bunch of young kids and started training them, drilling them, and got my old standby, Rex Fredericks, to help me. He's the best fundamentalist that there is. So we went to work, and by August, the third year, we won that thing. We was a big school, and I announced the date for tryouts, and I had 90 girls show up.
Wow.
90 girls, and the next day we had 25. Those girls were all coming back the next year, and they vowed that they weren't going to lose another game in the state. And brother, they won 3 in a row. The girls, for the most part, especially when we first started it, were real interested in learning, would listen, would try to do what you asked them to do. After we got started playing and looking pretty good, the fans got interested, and it's unreal how they turned out and backed us. It's just uncanny. The girls, occasionally you got to get on them just a little bit, but I never allowed them to cry unless they got hurt.
After Hazel Green, you were there for
5 years.
And then you had the chance to go back home.
London High School, I went back as an assistant for a couple of years, and I was head coach. Louisville Mercy very much interested in me coming down there and hired me, so I was there 5 years. Best situations that I've ever been in. The kids were super. They were all there for a reason. They were there to get an education, and that was the number one thing. Those kids, they really played hard. Really enjoyed my stay down there, and I met a lot of fine people in Louisville. A lot of good people down there, and a lot of good parents.
Wallace Wawa Jones, Harlan High. Wallace Wawa Jones is generally regarded as one of the greatest all-around athletes ever produced in Kentucky. Playing for the Harlan High Green Dragons, Wallace proved to be an all-state performer in basketball, football, and baseball. Scoring 2,398 career points, then a national record, Wawa was named first-team All-State in basketball 3 times. His Harlan team made 4 trips to the state tournament, including 1944 when they won the title. His post-high school career was equally phenomenal, as he was an All-American at the University of Kentucky as part of the Fabulous Five, winning both an NCAA championship and an Olympic gold medal in 1948.
Wallace Wawa Jones led Harlan High School to the 1944 Kentucky State High School Championship. He graduated in 1945. As we sit here today in 2011, that's 66 years ago. But to this day, a lot of old timers will tell you that Wah Jones is still the greatest athlete ever produced in the state of Kentucky. You love to mix it up.
Said Jones was ready to play. He's got his hair messed up and his shirt tail out, and he's ready to go. I wanted to get that ball, and sometimes I'd have to foul somebody to get it. But I played hard when I played, and I enjoyed it.
He won a state high school championship, the NIT, the NCAA, Olympic gold medal. Where does the high school, winning the high school championship, where does that rank in terms of your favorite memories?
Oh, it ranks way up there because we were a city school, and Harlan County was the second largest county in the state. And we had 8 other schools in our county. It was a great feeling, and we had a pretty good crowd to see us play, but being in Alumni Gym, you know, it wasn't very big, and you couldn't get a whole lot of people in, and we didn't have TV then. But it was a great feeling, the citywide that turned out to welcome us back home, and it was a great feeling.
Tell me what it was like for you to win an Olympic gold medal in London in 1948.
It was the greatest honor that anybody can get, and I just said to myself, I was in London, England, and I said, here's a little boy from Harlan, Kentucky, up in England playing basketball, and then to stand in front of the King and Queen of England and receive a gold medal, it had to be the top program.
You are a Kentucky icon. Anytime I've ever been around in any crowd and people start talking about the greatest athletes who ever come from Kentucky, Wallace Wawa Jones is always in the conversation. And congratulations on being inducted into the Kentucky High School Hall of Fame. You can add that to your long list of honors. And I just wanted to thank you, Wah, for just everything you've done for the state of Kentucky and the kind of ambassador you've been and the kind of gentleman you've been.
Two more great stories. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Kentucky High School Hall of Fame inductee Coach Roy Bowling.
Birthday. Would you please congratulate Wawa Jones?
Let's get all of our inductees back up here for one group picture. I know that everybody wants to get some shots and get everybody up here together in the basketball capital of the United States. What a picture this is, ladies and gentlemen. And Christy, while we're getting this picture taken, you may not know this, but everybody usually gets to spend their birthday with a few friends and close family and things like that. But Wah has honored us with being here tonight for his 86th birthday. How about joining in our song for Wah? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
feel free to take pictures. I'm sure everyone wants to document this up here on this stage, but we thank you all so much for coming, and we look forward to seeing you next year at our second Basketball Hall of Fame induction. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.